everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're tackling a topic I think we can all relate to: hope. You sent over this really fascinating episode of The Mindful Path, and wow, it really got me thinking. So, ready to unpack why this matters, for all of us.
Absolutely. And what I found so fascinating about this episode was how it reframed hope. It's not just some fleeting feeling. It's an active choice we make, this driving force that can seriously influence how we face challenges, how we approach them, can even shape our outcomes.
Yeah, and it's like what Sarah and Chris said about hope being that guiding light, that unwavering belief that tomorrow can be different. And I don't know about you, but what really struck me was how they emphasized that it's not about ignoring the hard stuff, but about choosing how we relate to it. Like,
Yeah,
that's a big shift, don't you think?
absolutely. And this is where their whole concept of hope as fuel really clicks.
Yeah.
It's that energy source that pushes us even when things are uncertain. And what's really interesting is how they tie that into the idea of small wins.
Oh, right. They talked about how if we focus on those tiny victories, it can actually make hope feel like more attainable, more real. Why do you think they emphasize that instead of just saying, go for those huge goals?
Because honestly, huge goals can be paralyzing. Like, it's easy to get overwhelmed and just lose motivation. But small wins, those are like these bursts of proof that change is possible. Each one chips away at that feeling of being stuck, and suddenly hope's not so abstract anymore, it's real. Have you ever felt that, those small wins that build into something bigger?
Oh, for sure. I think we all have. Even something as simple as like sticking to a new habit for a week or finishing a task you've been putting off forever. It gives you this incredible boost, this confidence and motivation to keep going.
Exactly. And that's what Sarah and Chris were getting at. These small wins, they build momentum, they show us we are capable of making positive changes, which then just fuels our hope for even bigger things down the line.
It's like that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But even that first step can feel impossible sometimes, especially when we're facing setbacks. And that's where I think the connection between hope and resilience comes in.
That's such a good point, and it's something they touched on too. This idea that resilience isn't about dodging hardship altogether, but about having that inner strength to bounce back, to grow from those tough experiences. And you know what they said is key to building that resilience? Hope.
It's like hope gives us that extra push to keep going even when we want to, give up. They gave that example of people facing really serious illnesses or massive setbacks in their lives, and how clinging to hope, to that belief that things can get better, is often what helps them rebuild, helps them move forward.
And it's not about pretending the situation isn't hard. It's about acknowledging the pain, the fear, the uncertainty, and still choosing to believe there's a way through, a way to come out stronger on the other side.
Yeah.
It's incredibly powerful.
And you know what else is interesting? They talked about how hope can actually be contagious. Like, just being around supportive, positive people can actually lift our own sense of hope. Have you ever felt that? Where someone else's optimism, their belief in you, kind of rubs off.
It really is. It's like we tap into this well of resilience together. And that reminds me, Sarah and Chris also talked about how hope isn't just something we feel, it's something we do. We can actually build hope through action. You know what I mean?
Totally. And they had those great examples, like focusing on the small wins, which we talked about, and then building up that resilience by like reframing challenges, seeing them as opportunities to grow instead.
Yeah.
Those really stuck with me.
Yeah, me too. And then they talked about how important it is to connect with other people. Just being around supportive, positive people. I said that can actually boost our own hopefulness.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that? Like someone else's good mood just rubs off on you?
100%. It's wild how powerful that can be. When you're around people who just radiate hope and positivity, it's like their energy, totally contagious. And then, the opposite is true too. If you're always around negativity, it can be so draining.
Oh, for
It
sure.
makes you realize how important it is to be mindful of who you surround yourself with,
Yeah,
for your own sake, but for theirs too.
it's true. You know that saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with?
Yes, so true.
And you know what else Sarah and Chris talked about? The power of visualization. They were saying that successful people, a lot of times they'll visualize what they want to achieve, and that actually makes their hope stronger. It can even help them reach those goals. What do you think about that?
I've heard about that before, but I'm kind of skeptical. It sounds a little too easy, like something you'd see on a motivational poster.
I get it, it can sound kind of hokey, but there's actually a lot of research to back it up. Turns out, when we really vividly imagine ourselves achieving something, our brains, They fire off these neural pathways, just like we were actually doing the thing in real life.
Wait, seriously, so you're saying just by thinking about something, I can actually, like, train my brain to make it more likely to happen?
Kinda, yeah. It's like giving your brain a mental rehearsal. And the more detail you can put into those visualizations, the more real you can make them feel, the stronger those pathways become. And then that can make you more confident, more motivated to actually take action.
That's so cool. So it's like you're getting your brain ready for success in advance.
Exactly. And get this, they mentioned this one study where researchers, they took basketball players and divided them into two groups.
Yeah.
One group, they practiced free throws on the court, like normal. The other group just visualized themselves making perfect shots. Guess what happened?
Okay, let me guess. The group that actually practiced on the court, they did better.
You'd think so, right? But here's the thing. Both groups got way better at free throws. The visualization group, even though they never even touched a basketball during the experiment, they improved almost as much as the group who physically practiced.
Whoa, that's wild. Okay, I'm starting to see how powerful this whole visualization thing can be. It's like they say, seeing is believing. Or I guess in this case, it's more like visualizing is believing and achieving.
Exactly. And that actually brings us to a really important point that Sarah and Chris kept coming back to, this idea that hope, it's not some kind of personality trait, something you're born with or you're not. They said it's a skill, like a muscle we can actually build up with practice, conscious effort.
I love that. It makes hope feel a lot more, I don't know, achievable. Like
Yeah.
it's something we have some control over.
Right. It means no matter what we're going through, even when things feel really tough, hopeless even, we have the ability to find more hope. It's a choice we can make every single day.
It's like we have all these tools we can use, right? Focusing on small wins, like we talked about, building up that resilience, surrounding ourselves with good people, even that visualization thing.
Yeah.
We can pick and choose what works best for this situation.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you,
Hmm.
what helps you tap into that hope that's already there. And remember, Sarah said, hope can start small, but the more you nurture it, the bigger it grows.
Mm.
Like planting a tiny seed, it might not look like much at first, but if you're patient, you take care of it, it can turn into something amazing.
I love that. But we've been talking about hope like it's this powerful, positive thing, which it is, but it's not always easy to feel hopeful, is it? Especially when things are tough. So what advice would you give to someone who's, really struggling to find that hope?
I think the most important thing is to be kind to yourself. It's okay to not feel hopeful all the time. Life's hard. It's totally normal to feel down or overwhelmed sometimes. The key is to not let those feelings take over. Focus on what you can control. What's one little thing you can do today, even if it's super small, to move yourself in a better direction?
Such a good point.
Yeah.
It's not about forcing yourself to be happy. It's more about like building those habits that lead to a more hopeful outlook in the long run, right?
Yes. And those habits will look different for everyone. Maybe it's starting a gratitude practice, taking a few minutes every day to appreciate the good things. Maybe it's calling up a friend, doing something you enjoy, just taking care of yourself.
Finding those little things that bring you joy and gratitude, those can really keep that hope alive, even when things feel uncertain.
Exactly. And, as we wrap up this deep dive, I keep thinking about this Emily Dickinson quote. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all.
Oh, I love that. It really gets at that idea that hope is always there no matter what.
It does. No matter what life throws at us, that hope is always there, waiting for us to tap into it. Let it guide us towards something better.
On that note, we'll leave you to it. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep that spark of hope burning bright.